Hello, Lizzie here, and today I'm going to show you how to make Finch. Finch is the most adorable little pouch with a magnetic closure to put your quilting clips in, but also, interestingly, it has little folds here that you can actually clip your quilting clips to, so they're really handy, or you can tuck them all away to keep them nice and safe. So all the instructions are in the pattern that you will have downloaded from my website, lizzycurtis.com. Now don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell and to put that thumbs up, and then I know that you have visited. So you'll prepare your fabric as per the instructions, in other words all the dimensions are there. One of the first things you're going to do is, with a heat erasable pen or something similar, on the right side of your fabric you're going to draw your lines. Now all the instructions again are in the pattern, so you'll know exactly where to draw your lines. Now you may or may not be able to see this on my gorgeous fabric, but I have to say that you measure up a 3/4 of an inch here, and then you're drawing a 1/2 inch lines with a 1 inch gap all the way up, and you should end up with five sets, and that's your first thing. So what we're going to do now is quickly stitch those pleats. That's what you're making pleats. Now you really do need to be careful of your seam allowance here. You do need these to be just that 1/4 of an inch, otherwise the backing of this won't fit. So I'm just making sure they're all lined up. Now you could pin this, you could use your quilting clips, but if you've got a 1/4 of an inch foot, that will really help you get all these lines in place, and I'm just kind of visually eyeing those up. You might want to use a size 3, a length of 3 on your sewing machine as a stitch length, because it's a top stitch basically, it's not going to do anything constructive. So we've got 5 of these to do, and then we can move on to the next part. Now by this stage you will have cut all your wadding as well, because all of this is padded, so it's really a lovely pouch. I mean, you don't have to use it for quilting clips. Just make sure you're not catching the other pieces of your fabric. Now I've used a heat erasable pen to draw my lines, but you might want to use something that you particularly like chalk or something like that. And again, I'm just making sure that is only a 1/4 of an inch. You end up with a 6.5 inch square, and that has to fit the backing and the lining pieces. You could, if you wanted to, make this slightly bigger and have 1/2 inch pleats. That's entirely up to you, but I find this works well for me. It's a great pattern. I love this one. I've done it quite a few times, but this time I decided to do it for you. And of course they're great gifts, and they're great for craft fairs and things, because they look amazing, and especially if you've got, like me, I've got a gorgeous piece of Japanese fabric which has all the foiling on, so it really does stand out. And again, just get those lined up. Okay, so I'm just going to trim my threads just to keep that tidy, and then we'll give that a good press. There we go. I knew I'd miss a few. There we go. So I'm just going to bring my iron in. Got my big iron today. Now what you're going to do, now it's up to you which way you press these pleats. I tend to have the pleats facing towards the opening, but we could do it the other way and see what you think. So let's do that. So they're going that way, so I need to do it the other way. And again, you could set the seams on these pleats before you actually put the folds over, basically, a bit like patchwork and quilting. And go from the back as well, and make sure you've opened up all those seams. So I'm just going to spray my wadding onto the back of my outside pieces, which are these beautiful fabric. So wrong side's facing me, and I'm going to spray the wadding, not the fabric. You really don't need a lot. and all of the edges are going to be caught into the seams. So just place those directly on the back of the wrong side of the fabric and the piece you've just stitched. So those are your two outside pieces with the wadding on. Now I'm going to put a stabiliser on the inside, on the lining pieces, on the wrong side, and that's so it'll take the strength of the magnetic closure. I wouldn't do it without a stabiliser. But before I do that, have a look at this. You can find access to my Gold Club from my website. Sign up and you can connect to my Facebook Live events and join in all the fun my Gold Club members have on a weekly basis. And of course you get free patterns. See my Gold Club video on YouTube for more information. So I've got my two lining pieces wrong side facing me. I'll just bring in my pressing mat. And we need to put the stabiliser on the back, like I said, to take the strength, if you like, the power of that magnetic closure. You don't want it to rip the fabric when you open it up. It needs to be stabilised. Now I've cut a couple of little pieces of H250, you know, that's the one I always seem to use. It's iron-on sticky on the back, so you know about that. And I've just done a zigzag, and I always do a zigzag because it then kind of softens the edge of it. So all I'm going to do is bring my iron in and find the middle of each piece. And sometimes it's easier to do it with a crease. You could do it with a finger press, I'll be honest with you. And then you just want to measure down about 1 inch and just make sure that your stabilised piece is going to be well within that. So if I put my piece over there, so it's about 1/2 inch from the top, just bring my iron in again, and then you're not supposed to wriggle it, you're supposed to just hold it. 8 seconds they say. I get a little impatient. I think that's fine. So I've put my stabiliser on the inside of my lining pieces, and now we need to put the magnetic closure in. So again, I've got my rubber mat and my punch, and we're just going to find the best place to put the back of the magnetic closure. And you know, I always get my pen and sort of make a little mark. But it's going to be 1 inch down, at least 1 inch down from the top. Just finding into my tape measure. There we go. So just as a reminder, so it's about there. So that back of the magnetic closure is right in the centre there. And then you can make your holes either side. So we'll go there and there. So we'll do the same with the other side. And this does really want to be the same, so the magnetic closures match up when you put them together. So if I measure with my tape measure, just find the back again. There we go. So now all we have to do is put the main part through. Now the main part of the magnetic closure goes in on the good side of the fabric. Poke the legs through, put the back on. I'll have to find the other one, it's on the floor. I use my scissors just to turn those over. They're not difficult. There we go. So that's the first one done. So I'll just go ahead and do the second one. So now I've put both parts of the magnetic closure in and they go together beautifully. So now all we're going to do is join it. To be honest, it doesn't really matter whether the thin side or the fat side go towards the front or the back. I really wouldn't worry about that. But just grab an outside, grab a lining and pop them together. Now don't forget, this is the back. This doesn't have the pleats in that we've just made, so it doesn't really matter because it's a square. It doesn't really matter where this magnetic closure goes, but it does on the other part. So we're just going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now if you put your magnetic closure anywhere nearer to the top of this seam, first of all you'll find that it might stick to the bed of your machine. It's magnetic, but also You might have difficulty getting your machine foot around it. So that's one half. Now with the little front where you've got the pleats, it's the bigger gap between the pleat and the top raw edge, which is the top of your bag, okay? Where you've got that little tiny piece there, that's the bottom of the bag. So just remember, when you put right sides together, that's the top, and they go together. It's not crucial, but I've allowed so you've got that extra space there. And again, right sides together, put a little back stitch. Quarter-inch seam allowance. It's pretty much always a quarter of an inch unless I say. So now you've got your two pieces joined. Probably could do the press, which I will do. And then all you're going to do is actually stitch the two pieces together. Okay, so these are going to go right, so I'm going to give it a press, but right sides together. All the magnetic closure just popped together. And then you're going to go from this top edge here, down here, across and up, and you're leaving this entire top section open. Well, it's the bottom of the lining basically is what you're leaving open, okay? So I'm going to press my pieces just to keep them neat. I love those magnetic closures. And also you could iron out where you crease to find the middle of your fabric, all that sort of thing. There we go. So, right sides together. And a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way round. And like I say, because you've got those magnetic closures there, sometimes they do catch on your machine and it will stop you from stitching, literally, it'll hold it back. So don't think your machine is faulty, just consider where your magnetic closure is. I've had it happen. So all the way through, the fleece, seam, the wadding, right into that corner there. And again, line them all up so it's lovely and neat. And obviously you can pin this all together or use your quilting clips. That's what we're making it for, isn't it? Little Finch. And of course this is a perfect scrap buster, isn't it? Get that all lined up. I'm laughing because the magnetic closure keeps popping together. Little back stitch because I'm going to turn it through. And you might want to trim these corners off. Oh, I will. I wasn't going to, but I will. Because it will make a difference to how your corners look when you turn it through. All pieces picked up by me later. So just get your finger in there, grab hold of that corner and that one, bring it all the way through. And again, you can pop your scissors in there or your pokey tool or your chopstick or whatever you use to turn your corners through. You could give that a press if you want, but we just get that thread. All we're going to do is to pop this lining inside, but before we do that, we're just going to stitch this opening closed. So I'm just literally going to fold all that edge in 1/4 inch, and I tend to sort of get the first bit prepared, if you like. I shouldn't worry about the colour of your thread. Hand stitch if you want to glue it, but nobody's going to see this bit. Not even you, because it's going to be filled with quilting clips. And then I tend to sort of get that 1/4 inch at the other end and then just pull it, and that gets all that fabric lined up, usually beautifully straight. There we go. The back stitch. Just trim trim those threads off because I know I'll never revisit the inside of this bag again, and I'll always wonder why I didn't trim those threads. Now you could, if you wanted to, top stitch all the way around the top of this little pouch. I'm going to get my big scissors in now to poke this through, and to neaten it off really, to just give it that final flourish, final finish. Certainly it needs a press. I'll just finger press for the time being. Just make sure that lining goes all the way down, and then that little magnetic clasp just catches itself. It needs a good press at the top, but then what you can do, let's find some clips. First of all, clips can go inside to store. They never seem to come out. I've had one of these for years, it never comes out. And then of course you've got those little pleats that we made to store those clips ready for when you stitch next. And actually it's really handy. It's like having a little hedgehog close to you by the time you put all your clips on there. So there we are. That's Finch. I hope you make loads.